Then the other issue, of course, is how we work together as nations. And that's what we call international law. And that's what we call trying to solve the problems of climate change, the problem of creating, as Barack Obama talks about, a world free from nuclear weapons, that we need to have a fair system, a banking system, global economic system. How do we work together? There, it's much more complicated because you don't have a court system. I mean, here, you have a code, you have a court system, you have an adjudication process. You don't have that at the international level. You have the rules are developed by the same people whom they are going to apply. And the rules are very much embedded in a political context. So everybody is trying to inject into the rules what they think will get them the greatest benefit. You end up with rules that are not very clear. You end up with rules that are interpreted in so many different ways in political context. And you end up with rules in many cases that are outrightly violated. When we saw recently, in London, Tony Blair, saying that, that he would have done the Iraq war again, for regime change. I couldn't help myself ask, how does regime change fit with international law? Unilateral use of force for regime change. And if you end up with 1 million people, losing their life, who is accountable for that? These are some of the problems we have, and as an international community. Then you go, to Security Council. Security Council is very much a political body, and in some cases you get a remedy. In some other cases you don't get any remedy because of the power politics. And when you get remedies like what we call sanctions, economic sanction. But who is harmed by the economic sanctions? It's really the vulnerable and the young and the old. I've seen that in Iraq before the war. When hundreds of thousands of people lost their life because there was no medicine, there was no food, while Saddam Hussein continued to enrich himself. We continue to try to talk about smart sanctions, but I haven't seen the smart sanctions. How do you target? You target the people in power. And mind you, I mean, all these are regimes where the people are totally helpless to change the government. They are authoritarian dictatorship. Then you use force. And we have seen the result of the using force. The force usually open more wounds than heal the wounds that we have. So you want an international system, an international law system that is working. You really need to engage, and this is a conclusion I'm coming to. You really need to engage civil society. It's really the people who have to push for a more fair system, a more equitable system, a more just system. In other words, a more legal system.